Hey everyone, welcome to today's class. In today's class, we are going to look into HTML attributes, what they are and different elements with their attributes, right? In our last class, we talked about block level elements and inline elements. We saw different examples and few examples, something like p elements, right? P elements, which is for paragraphing. We have div, we have h1 to h6. We also have header, we have main, we have section, and we have aside. Now, we've seen their difference between block level element and inline elements. Block level elements, what results is that it takes up the full width of our browser. That is the 100% width of our browser, and it always starts on a new line, right? For inline element does not start on a new line, and it takes up the width necessary for that particular content or the content inside that particular element. It doesn't take the full width of our browser. So if the content is small, it will take up the width available or necessary for that particular element, right? So we saw a few examples like span, strong, we saw big, I elements, button elements, code elements, small elements, and so on and so forth. So if you haven't seen that video, please go back and watch it. It's very important. And if you are coming across our page for the first time, you are welcome to Code with Chris. This page and channel is dedicated in teaching web development from scratch for free. So if you have been aspiring to become a web developer, either a full stack web developer, front end web developer, or back end web developer, this channel is the right channel for you. We are going to give you a complete guide from beginning to the end, right? So make sure you subscribe to our channel at Code with Chris, and also don't forget to follow us on other platforms like Facebook and TikTok at the same handle, Code with Chris. Right, so don't forget to like, comment, and share. Sharing is important so that you get to other people who are also interested in learning how to code. Right, so now, what is HTML attributes? Right, okay, first of all, we're going to be creating our file. We're going to be creating a new file. Remember, I said in our last video, this is your work environment. You are free to navigate around. Don't be scared, right? So we're going to create a new file for this class, right? Just, you already know how to do that. You right click and then you see new file, right? So I'm going to name it attributes. Then remember, it must end with .html, which is the extension of what HTML. That shows us that this is an HTML file. Without it, it will not recognize that this is an HTML file. All right, so the next thing to do is to bring out our boilerplate or HTML skeleton. You already know how to do that. You can type HTML and pick HTML5, or you do hyphen, shift 1, which is hyphen, and then you click enter. So this is our boilerplate. So now, what is HTML attributes? So an attribute or HTML attribute is extra information provided inside an HTML element start tag that configures, modifies the behavior, appearance, and semantics of that element. Right, so attributes come as name value pair, or sometimes Boolean, name that stands alone, and then it supplies the element with data the browser script or assertive technologies can actually use. So what it means that attributes provides additional information about HTML element. It provides additional information and behavior to a particular element. Where HTML element is limited, attribute can actually add an additional behavior to that particular element, right? So that is what it does. So, and it always what you should also note that all HTML elements can have attributes. All HTML numerous elements that we have in HTML can have attributes. All of them can have attributes, right? So attributes provide additional information about an element, and also attributes always are specified in the start tag. Don't do the mistake of specifying an attribute in the end tag. Attribute always starts or is specified in the start tag, and then attributes usually come with what? Name value pair. That is the name of the attribute and then the value which you want to give it, right? So attribute is not complete without name and value pair, right? So name of the attribute and then the type, the value of the attributes, right? So now, and we also have different types of attributes. We have different type of attributes. So after this class, you'll be able to, when you see a particular attribute, you'll be able to identify that, okay, this is this particular attribute, right? So now we have Boolean attributes, as I said earlier. So Boolean attributes means that when it is specified, the presence only means true. Boolean itself means true or false. Boolean means true or false. Is either true or is false. Is either present or absent. So now for Boolean attributes, it is regarded as true when it is specified. That means when you use them, that means it will work as true. Example is disabled. Disabled. Checked, required attributes, and all of that. So we also have global attributes. Now attributes, these are attributes that many or all HTML elements can use. Many elements can use it. Almost all HTML elements can use it. Example is ID. We have class attributes, we have style, title, we have data, we have hidden, and all of that. So we also have specified attributes. These are attributes that elements, specify attributes such as, source. Something like source is an attribute on image. Action on form is an attribute. Is a specified attribute. Co-span on table data is a specified attribute. So as time goes on, you'll be understanding most of these terms. All right. So we also have event attributes. So event attributes, these are kind of attributes that serve as inline script handlers. Inline script handlers, like on click, when you click a button, what should happen? So on click, on inputs, and all of that. So we also have form related attributes. These are attributes that are related into form, something like name, value, placeholder, required, autocomplete, method, action, and all of that. We also have media attributes. So media attributes are for, something like control of media, URL, and all of that. We have SRC, source, we have control, we have, autoplay for, video, we have mute, we have loop, we have poster, and all of that. So we also have linking or navigating attributes. So these are, linking. Linking means to connect, one page to another, either internal page or external page, right? So now we have href, we have rel, we have target, we have download, and all of that. So that is the different types of attributes we have, right? So we're going to be seeing or practicalizing them, right? So now the first element that we're going to use is a element or a tag. Now a element or a tag is used for linking page to page, right? So linking page to page. So, and it has note, some elements doesn't come with attributes by default, but some elements come with attribute by default. Why? Because it is very important. Now that particular element cannot function properly or complete without attributes. Some elements cannot function, appropriately without an attribute. An example of it is a tag, because a tag, it has an important attribute known as href, href, right? Now this href is used, or it contains the URL the destination of the link. A element is used for linking page to page, either internal page or external page, right? So this is where you provide the path, the URL of the destination. You want maybe a user to click and it will take you to that particular destination. This is where you provide it, that is path, right? So now let's take, for instance, you've been to a website whereby you will see maybe read more. You click on read more, it take you to another page entirely, and after you read, then you come back to your previous website. So this is a element is used to actually achieve that, right? So let's take, for instance, I say click to read more, click to read more, and now I'm going to provide the path, of the URL of the destination, right? So for this, I'm going to be copying our last class. I'm going to provide the URL. So it could be external URL, it could be internal URL. You could go to any website at all and just copy, their URL and come and paste. You could use this one. So we are going to use our previous file. So okay, we are going to use this file. All right, so I'll just hover on that particular file I want to copy, and then right click, and then you see copy, right? Not copy path, right? If you like, right click, not copy path, but copy, right? So then I come back to our file, and then I paste it inside the href. So this is what is known as, known as name, and this is known as value. That is why attributes are name and value pair. Name and value pair. The name of the attribute is href, and the value is the required information for that particular attribute, right? So now let me go live. Okay, so now you can see to read more. So if I click this, it will take me to that particular document I've linked it to, right? So I then click back arrow, it will take me back to my previous page, right? So now this is it for linking. And now there's another attribute. Remember, all elements can have an attribute, and all elements can have more than one attribute. It can have as many attributes as it can, depending on what you want to achieve. Just like, as you code, you notice some behavior, and then you keep on fixing it and making it better, right? So if you click on this, you find out that it loads in the present tab. It loads in this present tab. So there is an attribute we can use to make it load in a separate tab, so that it will not disrupt that current tab or page that you are into. This thing is actually very important, because sometimes some users or some visitors in a website can actually decide to go through a website, maybe an article, and then as they're reading, they see something that catch their attention, but then they don't want to actually, they just want to glance through that external content, instead of it actually loading in that present tab they are, requiring them to now go do back and all of that. It should open in a separate tab, in a new tab entirely, so that when they just finish reading or glancing through, they close it and then continue, right? So this is actually helpful for loading stress and all of that, right? So now the attribute for it is known as target attribute. So target attribute is used to target a particular state, or where our link should load, right? So different value known as blank, parent, self, and top. So, and one of the value for target attribute that does the loading in a separate tab is blank underscore blank. underscore blank. So now we've added it in underscore blank. If I click this, you find out that it loads in a separate tab. I have this tab and I have this tab, so that when I'm done here, I can quickly close this and then go back to continue from where I stopped. So if I click this again, it opens in a separate tab. So I have these two tabs, right? So you can see it is an advantage, right? It actually discourages, it ensures that it will not discourage users from actually going back to the article or information or whatever they were doing before, and then continue, right? So now that is it. So but other ones like self and parent will actually load in the present tab, right? It loads in the present tab, right? So they do similar stuff. Parent, self, and what top, they do similar stuff. So if I click this, find out that it loads in the present tab. So I had to go click back arrow and then I get it. So now keep on adding as many attributes as you want in one element, right? So depending on what you want to achieve. So now next attributes or next elements we're going to test is image attribute, img. Img is for image, right? Image, of course, image, we use image to our web page, right? So now there's what we are going to do. We're going to be creating a folder inside this VS Code, so that it will have every image. We are going to be working with a lot of image. We're going to be working with a lot of images. So we need a folder that is going to have all the image we're going to be working with for an organized work environment. So, and there are ways to create this folder. Of course, the same way you create a file, that is the same way you can create a folder. So you can right click and then you see folder, you click new folder, or you come to this second icon, you see new folder. So I'm going to name it images. So this folder is going to have all our images inside it. So another thing we're going to do is to check how to add image to our VS Code, right? So one of the ways we can do that is to open your file explorer. Open your file explorer. Okay, I can minimize and then so that I'll be able to drag. So right, so now I'll locate where my images are. Okay, then let me use this. Okay, so let me use any of these. So what I need to do is to drag this. I'll actually drag this. So double tap, drag, and then drag it to exactly this image folder and then leave it. So it's going to add to our VS Code. You find out that it is inside this image folder. If I close this, you see that it will not show. So it's inside this image, is inside our image folder. So now back to our code, right? So now image element has two important attributes. Just like I said earlier, there are elements that comes with attribute by default. Most of the elements we have been dealing with before in our classes, they don't have attribute, but that doesn't mean you cannot add attribute. You can actually add attribute to it, but there are elements that must come with some attributes, right? So these attributes are very important because it officiates the functionality of that particular element, right? It controls the appearance and functionality of that particular element. So now we have in image element, we have source attributes and alternate attribute. This means source, SRC, it means source, and we have alternate attributes. It means what? ALT here means alternate, right? So this source, this is almost the same thing as href. So it's requiring us of the URL of the image, the image URL, the part of the what? Of the image, right? The part of the image. And you know, just for references, we have two types of URL. Two types of URL. Number one, we have absolute URL. So now absolute URL links to an external image that is hosted on another website. Just like you go to a website and then you copy their image link and come and paste here. So this is known as, it is known as what? Absolute what? URL. So now we also have relative URL. Relative URL links to an image that is hosted within the website. It's just like linking this image that we added here, linking it inside that source, right? So but for absolute is copying an external image URL and paste inside here. So now then for alternate is, it means either it means, can be used to actually specify the name of the image, or also sometimes programmers use it to they can declare image, and then maybe the image is not available for now. Instead of not adding image elements, they add image elements and then use in the alternate they add hash in order to specify that yes, image is going to be here, right? And so that they won't forget. All right, so you can see here we have, this shows that image ought to be here. Sometimes if you are loading your page or a website where an image is supposed to appear, maybe it's taking time to load, you always notice or see this stuff, right? So now next thing is to actually copy to get our URL, image URL. And to do that, remember we have a folder that has our image. So if we have more than one image, it's going to be here, it's going to be inside that image folder. So the first thing to do is to call the image folder. So I call images and then slash, and then I pick the image I want. So if you have more than one image, it will appear here. If you have thousands of images to appear, you just have to click the one you want. So now with this, if I should open our browser, we find out that we have this image already. You can see the image that we added is now here, right? So that is it. This we can also add another element, another attribute, sorry, known as width. Now width is used to control the width of our element or image. It's not just for image, for all elements, right? So now if I say width, let's say 20%, let me see, 20%, right? Okay, 20% is too small. It's too small. Let me make it 60. You can see how it reduced, how 20% reduced the image to. Okay, 60 is quite big. 40, I think 40 is better. Okay, so this is 40. All right, so we can also set the height. Height is also another attribute. So height is another attribute. So height is used to change the size, the height of any element. All right, so let me give it also 40. And sometimes it's important, it's good to actually work with height and what width, the same height, the same thing, height and width. Okay, I think it's the same thing, so I just have to reduce this. Okay, let me make it 20. Okay, so now another element we are going to be testing is, okay, let's so another attributes, okay, let's use p elements. Another attribute we can test is title attribute. So this is a paragraph. This is a paragraph, right? This is a paragraph. We can use title. Title is used for title of um of course we know what title means, title of a book and all of that. So, and some attributes may not actually show in our browser. It may not actually directly influence you know that particular element, but it does influence that particular element. Something like title, just give it that, okay, this is what maybe paragraph, right? So in our browser, this is a paragraph, right? So that is it for some attributes. I don't want our video to get too long, so in our next class we're going to continue from where we stopped, right? So thank you for watching, and if you have not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and also follow us on our pages at Code with Chris. Also, don't forget to like, comment and share. Thank you for watching. Bye.